A light clicking of heels on Mexican tile was getting louder. "When the boy goes to the airport," whispered Valerian, "tell him to pick up some Maalox on the way back." "Well," he said to his wife, "what have we here? Wonder Woman?" "Please," she said. "It's too hot." "Good morning, Sidney." "Good morning, Mrs. Street." "Then what is that between your eyebrows?" "Frownies." "Beg pardon?" "Frownies." Sidney walked around the table, tilted the pot, and poured coffee soundlessly into her cup. "You have trouble frowning?" asked her husband. "Yes." "And that helps?" "Supposed to." She held the cup in front of her lips and closed her eyes. The steam floated into her face while she inhaled. "I am confused. Not senile, mind you, just confused. Why would you want to frown?" Margaret took another breath of coffee steam and opened her eyes very slowly. She looked at her husband with the complete dislike of a natural late sleeper for a cheerful early riser. "I don't want to frown. Frownies don't make you frown. They erase the consequences of frowning." Valerian opened his mouth, but said nothing for a moment. Then, "But why don't you just stop frowning? Then you won't need to paste your face with the little pieces of tape." Margaret sipped more coffee and returned the cup to its saucer. Lifting the neckline of her dress away from her, she blew gently into her bosom and looked at the pale wedges Sidney placed before her. Undine had left the spiky skin on the underside deliberately, just to hurt and confuse her. "I thought we'd have mangoes." Sidney removed the fruit and hurried to the swinging doors. "What gets into everybody? The same thing every morning." "I wanted pineapple. If you don't, tell Sidney at night what you'd like for breakfast the next morning. That way he can—" "She knows I hate fresh pineapple. The threads get in my teeth. I like canned. Is that so terrible?" "Yes, terrible." "They tell us what to eat. Who's working for who?" "Whom?" "If you give Undine menus for the whole week, that is exactly what she will prepare." "Really? You've been doing that for 30 years, and you can't even get her to fix you a cup of coffee. She makes you drink Postum." "That's different." "Sure." Sidney returned with a bowl of crushed ice in which a mango stood. The peeling had been pulled back from the shiny fruit in perfect curls. The slits along the pulp were barely visible. Valerian yawned behind his fist, then said, "Sidney, can I not order a cup of coffee and get it?" "Yes, sir. Of course you can." He put down the mango and filled Valerian's cup. "See, Margaret, and there's your mango. 425 calories. What about your croissant?" 127. God. Margaret closed her eyes, her blue if it's a boy blue eyes, and put down her fork. "Have a grapefruit." "I don't want grapefruit. I want mango." Valerian shrugged. "Slurp away. But you had 3 helpings of mousse last night." 2. I had 2. Jade had 3. "Oh, well, only 2. Well, what do we have a cook for? Even I can slice grapefruit." "To wash the dishes." "Who needs dishes? According to you, all I need is a teaspoon." "Well, someone has to wash your teaspoon. And your shovel." Funny. Very funny. It's true. Margaret held her breath and stuck her fork into the mango. She exhaled slowly as the section came away on the tines. She glanced at Valerian before putting the slice in her mouth. "I've never seen anyone eat as much as you, and not gain an ounce ever. I think she adds things to my food. Wheat germs or something. At night she sneaks in with one of those intravenous things and pumps me full of malts." "Nobody pumps you full of anything. Or whipped cream, maybe." Sidney had left them discussing calories, and now he was back, with a silver tray on which wafer-thin slices of ham, tucked into toast baskets, held a poached egg. He went to the sideboard and lifted them onto plates. He laid stems of parsley on the right rim and 2 tomato slices to the left of each plate. He whisked away the fruit bowls, careful not to spill the water from the ice, and then leaned forward with the hot dish. Margaret frowned at the dish and waved it away. Sidney returned to the sideboard, put the rejected dish down, and picked up the other. Valerian accepted it enthusiastically, and Sidney edged the salt and pepper mill an inch or 2 out of his reach. "I suppose you are decorating the house with guests for Christmas. Push that salt over here, will you?" "Why would you suppose that?" Margaret stretched out a hand, a beautifully manicured hand, and passed him the salt and pepper. Her little victory with the mango strengthened her enough to concentrate on what her husband was saying. "Because I asked you not to. It follows, therefore, that you would defy me. Have it your way. Let's just spend the holidays all alone in the cellar." "We haven't got a cellar, Margaret." "You should take a look around this place. You might like it. Come to think of it, I don't believe you've seen the kitchen yet, have you? We've got two kitchens. One is—" "Valerian, please shut up. But this is exciting. We've been coming here for only 30 years, and already you've discovered the dining room. That's 3 whole rooms. One every decade. First, you found the bedroom. That is, I assume you did. It's hard to tell when a wife sleeps separately from her mate. Then in 1965, I think it was, you located the living room. Remember that? Those cocktail parties. Those were good times. Heights, I'd say. You not only knew the airport and the dock and the bedroom, but the living room as well." "Yes, I am having guests for Christmas." "Then the dining room. Speak of a find. Dinner for 10, 20, 30. Think what's before you in one kitchen, let alone 2. We could entertain hundreds, thousands. Michael's coming." "I wouldn't put it off any longer if I were you. If we hurry, by the time I'm 80, we can invite Philadelphia. And a friend of his, that's all." "He won't come." "I've never had more than 12 people in this house at any one time. His friend will show, and he won't. Again. And I am not a cook, and I never have been. And I don't want to see the kitchen. I don't like kitchens." "Why work yourself up this way every year? You know he'll disappoint you." "I was a child bride, remember? I hadn't time to learn to cook before you put me in a house that already had one, plus a kitchen 50 miles from the front door." "Seems to me you did once. You and Undine giggling away in the kitchen is one of my clearest and fondest memories." "Why do you say that? You always say that." "It's true. I'd come home and you'd be—" "Not that. About Michael, I mean. That he won't show up." "Because he never has." "He never has here, down here, in this jungle with nothing to do. No young people, no fun, no music." "No music? I mean his kind of music." "You surprise me. And so he won't be bored to death. I've invited a friend of his." She stopped and pressed a finger to the frowny between her eyes. "I haven't invited anybody down here in years because of you. You hate everybody." "I don't hate anybody." 3 years it's been. What's the matter with you? Don't you want to see your son anymore? I know you don't want to see anybody else, but your own son? You pay more attention to that fat dentist than you do to Michael. What are you trying to prove down here? Why do you cut yourself off from everybody, everything? It's just that I'm undergoing this very big change in my life called dying. Retirement isn't death. A distinction without a difference. Well, I am not dying. I am living. A difference without distinction. And I'm going back with him. Sounds terminal. It might be. Christmas isn't the best time to make decisions like that, Margaret. It's a sentimental holiday full of foolish... Look, I'm going. I don't advise it. I don't care. He's not a little boy anymore. The knapsack, I know, is confusing, but Margaret, he'll soon be 30. So what? So what makes you think he'll want you to live with him? He will. You're going to travel with him. Go to snake dances. I'm going to live near him, not with him, near him. It won't work. Why not? Valerian put his palms down on either side of his plate. He doesn't care all that much for us, Margaret. You, she said, he doesn't care all that much for you. Whatever you say. Then I can go? We'll see. When he gets here, ask him. Ask him if he wants his mother next door to the reservation in a condominium. He's through with that. The school closed. He's not with them anymore. Oh, he's done with the Hopis? Gone on to the Choctaws, I suppose. No, wait a minute. C comes before H. Let me see. Navajos, right? He's not with any tribe. He's studying. What, pray? Environmental something. He wants to be an environmental lawyer. Does he now? Yes. Well, why not? A band manager, shepherd, poet in residence, film producer, lifeguard, ought to study law. The more environmental, the better. An advantage, really, since he's certainly had enough environments to choose from. And what will you do? Design no-nuke stickers? You can't make me change my mind. It's not a matter of changing it. It's a matter of using it. Let him alone, Margaret. Let him be. You can't do it over. What you want is crazy. No, this is crazy. I live in airplanes now. Nowhere. Not in Philadelphia, where I at least have friends. Not here, boiling under a palm tree with nobody to talk to. You keep saying next month, next month, next month, but you never do it. You never leave. But you do. Whenever you like. Lots of people live in 2 places. I want to live in one, just one. In October, you said, after New Year's. You'll come back. Then when New Year's comes, you'll say after Carnival. If I want to live with you, I have to do it your way, here. I can't keep flying back and forth across the ocean wondering where I left the Kotex. Anyway, I'm going back with Michael. For a while. Make a home for him. You'll have to eat corn cakes. 325 per serving. I told you he's not there anymore. He's applied at UC Berkeley, I think. Marijuana cookies, then. 200. You will not listen. Margaret, promise me something. What? That you won't go unless he agrees to it. But promise. She studied him for a moment, for she never knew if he was teasing her, patronizing her, or simply lying. But now he looked deadly earnest, so she nodded, saying, all right, all right. That's no risk. What about Jade, then? Asked Valerian. What about her? She can stay as long as she likes. She thinks she's working for you. Let her work for you while I'm gone. Oh, dear. Or just relax. She wanted to spend the winter here is all. Why, I can't think. Getting over an affair, I thought. At her age, it takes 3 days, not 3 months. You don't like her anymore. I love her. But I'm not going to give up going back with Michael just to help her cool off for another month or 2. Besides, look what she has to go back to. What? Everything. Europe, the future, the world. Why are you frowning? Does she need money? No. No, not that I know of. She signed on with some agency or something in New York, or is about to. There. She doesn't need the pretense of working for me. Valerian swallowed the last bit of egg and ham and tapped the toast basket with his fork. Clever. Very clever. Jade? No, Undine. This is really good. I think she served something like this in the States. Talk about calories. You're eating like a horse already, and the day has just started. Peak. Peak? Why? The nursery. Stateside sent a defective order, completely ruined. Shame. Margaret reached toward a croissant, changed her mind, and withdrew her hand. Have it, said her husband. It wasn't $4.25, that mango, not even 100. You liar. I should have known. I was going to ask Jade about that. She wants to open up a little shop of some sort, he said. You're mumbling. Shop. She wants to be a model a little longer, then open up a shop. Wonderful. She has a head. You'll help her, won't you? Won't you? Of course. Well, why the long face? I was thinking of Sidney and Undine. As usual. What about them? They like her here. We all do. She's their family, all they have of family left. And you're as much family to them as she is. They've known you longer than they have her. It's not the same. What is it? What are you thinking? Nothing. Something. Sidney's very excited about that shop idea, Valerian said. Undine, too. Oh? Nothing definite. At the dreaming stage still. Now who's worked up? It's a possibility, that's all. An attractive one for them, I suppose. That's selfish, Valerian. Perhaps, but I don't think so. I don't think so. You're worrying about nothing. They won't leave you in the situation they have here to go into the retail business. At this time of life, never. Yes? Of course, yes. Look at you. She laughed. You're scared. Scared Kingfish and Beulah won't take care of you. I've always taken care of them, and they will do the same for you. God knows they will. You couldn't pry them out of here, with or without Jade. They are yours for life. Don't snarl. Your frowny is coming loose. I'm not snarling. They're loyal people, and they should be. I've never understood your jealousy. That's just like you to call it jealousy. When we were first married, I used to have to pull you away from Undine. Guests in the house, and you'd prefer gossiping in the kitchen with her. Well, you sure put a stop to that, didn't you? I put a stop to a hostess neglecting guests. I didn't put a stop to... I was shy. But I didn't want you to turn around and be outright hateful to her. She would have quit even then if I hadn't. I know. And then Sidney the Precious would have left too. Don't dwell on it. They're here, and they always will be. I can guarantee it. But you won't be. I said for a while. If Michael comes, he will. We'll see. Then it's all set? I can go? Don't push me into my last and final hour, Margaret. Let me saunter toward it. You are sweet. Not sweet, helpless. You? Valerian Street, the Candy King? You've never been stronger or more beautiful. Stop. You got your way. You are beautiful. Slim, trim, distingue. Forgive her, LaRousse. Distingue? Distingue. Joyeux Noel. Dear God. Joyeux Noel, Sidney. Ma'am? Did you tell the boy about the trunk? He hasn't come yet, ma'am. As soon as he does. And turkey. Undine will do a turkey, Sidney. Yes, ma'am, if you like. I like. I really like. I've ordered geese, Margaret. Geese? She stared at Valerian, for suddenly she could not imagine it. Like a blank frame in a roll of film, she lost the picture that should have accompanied the word. Turkey she saw, but geese? We have to have turkey for Christmas. This is a family Christmas. An old-fashioned family Christmas. And Michael has to have turkey. If Tiny Tim could eat goose, Margaret, Michael can eat goose. Turkey, she said. Roast turkey with the legs sticking up and a shiny brown top. She was moving her hands to show them how it looked. Little white socks on the feet. I'll mention it to Undine, ma'am. You will not mention it. You will tell her. Yes, ma'am. And apple pie. Apple, ma'am. Apple. And pumpkin. We are in the Caribbean, Margaret. No, I said no. If we can't have turkey and apple pie for Christmas, then maybe we shouldn't be here at all. Hand me some of my medicine, Sidney. Yes, sir. Sidney? Ma'am. Will we have turkey and apple pies for Christmas dinner? Yes, ma'am. I'll see to it. Thank you. Is Jade down yet? Not yet, ma'am. When she is, tell her I'll be ready at 10. Yes, ma'am. Margaret Lenore stood up so suddenly her chair careened for a brief moment before righting itself. Quickly she was gone. Everything all right, Mr. Street? I am going to kill you, Sidney. Yes, sir. Beyond the doors through which Sidney had been gliding all morning was the first kitchen. A large sunny room with 2 refrigerators, 2 steel sinks, 1 stove, rows of open cabinets, and a solid oak table that seated 6. Sidney sat down, and immediately the place he took at the perfectly round table was its head. He looked out the windows and then at his wife's arm. The flesh trembled as she wire-whisked a bowl of eggs. Mango all right? She asked without turning her head. She ate a mouthful, said Sidney. Contrary, murmured his wife. She poured the eggs into a shallow buttered pan and stirred them slowly with a wooden spoon. It's all right, Undine. Lucky you had one. I'll say, even the colored people down here don't eat mangoes. Sure they do. Sidney slipped a napkin from its ring. The pale blue linen complemented his mahogany hands. Yardmen, said Undine, and beggars. She poured the eggs into a frying pan of chicken livers. She was 17 years her husband's junior, but her hair, braided across the crown of her head, was completely white. Sidney's hair was not as black as it appeared, but certainly not snow-white like Undine's. She bent to check on the biscuits in the oven. What's the principal beauty hollering about? Turkey. Undine looked at her husband over her shoulder. Don't fool with me this morning. And apple pie. You better get me a ticket out of here. She straightened up. Calm down, girl. She want it. She can come in here and cook it after she swim on back up to New York and get the ingredients. Where does she think she is? It's for the boy. God help us. She wants an old-fashioned Christmas. Then she can bring her old-fashioned butt in here and cook it up. Pumpkin pie, too. Is any of this serious? I told you. The boy is coming. He's always coming. Ain't got here yet. Then you know as much as I do. Every year the same. She'll walk on a hot tin roof till he wires saying he can't. Then look out. You can't be serious about apples, surely. I can't be certain, Undine. Looks like he might make it this time. He's already shipped his trunk. That old red footlocker, remember? Yardman's supposed to pick it up Thursday. She don't know that. He called her and say so. Ain't been no mail coming here from him, has it? She called him, I believe, this morning, making sure of the time difference. That's what she rang you up for? I didn't have time to tell you. When's he due? Soon, I reckon. Sidney dropped 2 sugar cubes into his postum. I thought all he ate was sunflowers and molasses these days. Sidney shrugged. Last time I saw him, he ate a mighty lot of steak. And fresh coconut cake. That whole cake, as I recall. That's your fault. You spoiled him stupid. You can't spoil a child. Love and good food never spoil nobody. Then maybe he'll fly in here for sure this time, just to get some more of it. No way. Not down here, he won't. He hates this place. Coconuts and all. Always did. Liked it when he was younger. Well, he's grown now, and sees with grown-up eyes like I do. I still say you ruined him. He can't fix his mind on nothing. I ain't ruined him. I gave him what any child is due. Uh-huh. You really believe that? That I ruined him? Oh, I don't know, girl. Just talking. Between you and the principal beauty, he never wanted for affection. Bitch. You have to stop that, Undine. Every time she comes down here, you act out. I'm getting tired of refereeing everybody. The principal beauty of Maine is the main bitch of the prince. You worry me. Cut the fire out from under that pan and bring me my breakfast. I just want you to know I'm not fooled by all that turkey and apple pie business. Fact is, he don't want to be nowhere near her. And I can't say as I blame him, mother though she be. You're making up a life that nobody is living. She sees him all the time in the States, and he don't complain. Visits he can't do nothing about, but he never comes to see her. He writes her sweet letters. That's what he studied in school. Letters, poems. Don't think he don't love her. He does. I didn't say he didn't love her. I said he don't want to be near her. Sure, he loves her. That's only natural. He's not the one who's not natural. She is. You and Mr. Street just alike, always thinking evil about that girl. When'd she get to be a girl? She was a girl when I first saw her, 17. So was I. Oh, the devil. Everybody gone crazy in this house. Everybody. Mr. Street hollering about postum and putting cognac in his cup. She's hollering about mangoes and turkeys and I don't know what all, and now you denying her her own son. I'm not denying her nothing. She can have him. He turned out to be a different breed of cat anyway after he went to all those schools. He was a sweet boy. Now I suppose he'll be wanting mangoes, too. Well, he can have 'em if he'll stop coming in my kitchen to liberate me every minute. He means well, Undine. What's this about the postum? He says no more diet stuff. Regular coffee, real salt, all such as that. He'll rue it. It's his life. Okay by me. It's bothersome trying to cook with all those concoctions. Fake this, fake that. Tears up a meal, if you ask me. That plus everything temporary like this. Seems like everything I need to cook with is back in Philadelphia. I was just going by what the doctor told him 3 years ago. He leave that liquor alone, he could eat like regular people. Is he still constipated? No. Other people get constipated. He gets occasional irregularity. But he wants some Maalox just in case. Tell the yard man to bring a bottle out next time. Either one should be eating mangoes. Open him right up. Other than that, I can't think of a soul in the world eat mangoes for breakfast. I do. They hadn't heard her come in. She stood before the swinging doors, hands on hips, toes pointing in and smiling. Sidney and Undine looked around, their faces bright with pleasure. Here she is, said Sidney, and reached out a hand to hug her waist. She came forward and kissed his forehead, then Undine's. Sleep well, sugar. Well, and late. She sat down and locked her arms over her head in a deep yawn. The air, the night air is incredible. It's like food. You weren't serious, were you? Asked Undine. About wanting a mango? No. Yes, I don't know. Jadine dug her fingernails into her hair and scratched. I got some nice liver, sautéed just right with eggs. What kind of liver? Chicken. The chicken's egg and its liver. Is there anything inside a chicken we don't eat? Jadine, we're still at the table. said Sidney. Don't talk like that. He patted her knee. Pineapple, she said. I'll have some pineapple. Well, said Undine, thank God somebody in this house got some sense. That hussy sure don't. Let up, woman. She's got something to deal with. So has he. Yeah, well, I've known him practically all his life, and I'll tell you this. He gets his way. Even when he was a little boy, he got his way. J. Dean looked up. Valerian was a little boy? You sure? Hush up. Sidney wiped his mouth with a pale blue napkin. You be around all day today? Most of it. But I may have to take the boat back to town. What for? More Christmas shopping? Yep. You sure you won't have some livers? No, thanks, Nanadine. But could I have a cup of chocolate? In this heat? Asked Sidney. He raised his eyebrows, but Undine smiled. She loved it when her niece called her that. A child's effort to manage Aunt Undine. Sure you can, she said, and went immediately to the nickel-plated door that opened on a hallway. At the end, 4 steps descended to the second kitchen, where supplies were kept, and which was equipped like a restaurant kitchen. Back in the first kitchen, Sidney grumbled in the sunlight. Air conditioning in the shed, but none in the house, I swear. All that money. J. Dean licked sweet, wet juice from her fingertips. I love it. Makes the nights so much better. As soon as the sun goes down, it's cool anyway. I work in the daytime, girl. So do I. You still call that work? It is work. Sidney sucked his teeth. Exercising. Cutting pictures out of magazines, going to the store. I type, she said. And going to the store is a 23-mile boat trip after driving through jungle, swamp. You better not let him hear you call anything on this island jungle. Well, what does he call it? The Tuileries? You know what he calls it, said Sidney, digging in his vest pocket for a toothpick. L'Arbre de la Croix. I hope he's wrong, J. Dean laughed. Undine entered, limping a little from the few stairs and frowning. There's something in this house that loves bittersweet chocolate. I had 6 8-ounce boxes. Now there's 2. Rats? Asked Sidney. He looked concerned. Mr. Street and the other families had pooled money to have mongooses shipped to the island to get rid of snakes and rats. If rats fold wrappers, then yes, rats. Well, who then? Couldn't be over 15 people on the whole island. The Watts are gone. So are the Broughtons, said Sidney. Maybe it's one of the new staff over at Deauville. All Filipinos again, I heard. 4 of them. Come on, Nanadine. Why would they walk all the way over here to steal a piece of chocolate? Her niece swirled a napkin ring on her finger. Undine poured a little bit of water into a saucepan and plopped a chocolate square into it. Well, somebody is. And not just chocolate either. The Evian, too. Half a case. Must be Yard Man, said Sidney, or one of them Marys. Couldn't be. He don't step foot inside the house unless I'm behind him, and I can't get them Marys further in than the screen door. You don't know that, Undine, said Sidney. You're not in here every minute. I do know that, and I know my kitchen better than I know my face. J. Dean loosened the straps of her halter and fanned her neck. Well, let me tell you, your face is prettier than your kitchen's. Undine smiled. Look who's talking. The girl who modeled for Karen. Caron, Nanadine, not Karen. Whatever. My face wasn't in every magazine in Paris. Yours was. Prettiest thing I ever saw. Made those white girls disappear, just disappear right off the page. She stirred milk into the chocolate paste and chuckled. Your mother would have loved to see that. You think you'll ever do that again? Sidney asked her. Maybe, but once is plenty. I want my own business now. Once more they looked at her, pleasure shining in their faces. Undine brought the chocolate and set it down. She touched Jadine's hair and said softly to her, "Don't you ever leave us, baby. You all we got." "Whipped cream?" asked Jadine, smiling. "Any whipped cream?" Undine looked in the refrigerator for cream, while Sidney and Jadine turned to the window as they heard footsteps on the gravel. Yardman came alone on Saturdays, pulling his own oars in his own mud-colored boat, with Prix de France fading in blue on the prow. Today being Saturday, and no dinner party or special work to be done, he didn't bring a Mary, who, according to Sidney, might be his wife, his mother, his daughter, his sister, his woman, his aunt, or even a next-door neighbor. She looked a little different to the occupants of L'Arbre de la Croix each time, except for her Greta Garbo hat. They all referred to her as Mary, and couldn't ever be wrong about it because all the baptized black women on the island had Mary among their names. Once in a while, Yardman brought a small-boned girl, too. 14, perhaps, or 20, depending on what she chose to do with her eyes. Sidney would go down to the little dock then, in the Willie's Jeep, and return with the whole crew, driving through beautiful terrain, then through Saint-Didier, saying nothing, for he preferred their instructions to come from his wife. Yardman sometimes ventured a comment or two, but the Mary and the small-boned girl never said anything at all. They just sat in the Jeep, quietly hiding their hair from the eyes of malevolent strangers. Sidney may have maintained a classy silence, but Undine talked to them constantly. Yardman answered her, but the Mary never did, except for a quiet, "Oui, madame," if she felt pressed. Undine tried unsuccessfully for months to get a Mary who would work inside. With no explicit refusal or general explanation, each Mary took the potatoes, the pot, the paper sack, and the paring knife outdoors to the part of the courtyard the kitchen opened onto. It enraged Undine because it gave the place a nasty common look. But when, at her insistence, Yardman brought another Mary, she, too, took the pail of shrimp outside to shell and devein them. One of them even hauled the ironing board and the basket of Vera sheets out there. Undine made her bring it all back, and from then on they had the flat linen done in Queen of France along with the fine. Yardman, however, was accommodating. Not only did he run errands for them in the town, he swept, mowed, trimmed, clipped, transplanted, moved stones, hauled twigs and leaves, sprayed and staked, as well as washed windows, reset tiles, resurfaced the drive, fixed locks, caught rats, all manner of odd jobs. Twice a year, a professional maintenance crew came, 4 young men and an older one, all white, in a launch with machines. They cleaned draperies, waxed and polished floors, scrubbed walls and tile, checked the plumbing and the wiring, varnished and sealed the shutters, cleaned the gutters and downspouts. The money they made from the 15 families on the island alone was enough for a thriving business, but they worked other private and semi-private islands year-round, and were able to drive Mercedes and Yamahas all over Queen of France. Now, all 3 looked out the kitchen window at the old man, as though they could discover with their eyes an uncontrolled craving for chocolate and bottled water in his. Yardman's face was nothing to enjoy, but his teeth were a treat. Stone white, and organized like a drugstore sample of what teeth ought to be. Undine sighed pointedly and walked to the door. She wished he could read. Then she wouldn't have to recite a list of chores and errands 3 times over so he would not forget. A red-footed locker, a bottle of Maalox, the Christmas tree, phthalimide, putting down bricks, but she'd be damned if she'd mention a turkey.
This ends side 2 of cassette 1 of Tar Baby. Please fast forward to the end before loading cassette 2.